Hello, welcome to Thoughts About the Blues. Let me just do my collar because we've got stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about Christian Bielik and the ruthless transfer policy at Birmingham City. We're going to talk about Wayne Rooney's right to reply, one of the best goals ever seen at St Andrews, and the Blackburn comeback. This is Thoughts About the Blues. So much has happened since I did the first recording. A week is a long time in football. Blimey, a week is a long time in Birmingham City. Let's start with Wayne Rooney. Before we get to the two matches that we've played, another one against Parachute Payment Clubs, but we'll come to that in a minute. So, in the recent documentary, built in Birmingham, Brady and the Blues, there's a moment in the first episode, you might have spotted it reported, where Tom Brady questions the work ethic of Wayne Rooney. This made headlines around the world. Wayne Rooney didn't say anything when he was approached for comment. Now we know why, because the BBC has given him a lump of cash to make the Wayne Rooney show, and he's decided to say things in there talking about how unfair it is and blah, blah, blah. So I had a modicum of sympathy for Wayne Rooney. There was, I don't know if you saw it, a documentary film, Rooney, it was cunningly called, I believe, and it made some really fair points about how he was demonised, in part because he was a working class guy with a Scouse accent and wasn't from money, wasn't from privilege. And so this documentary, it's really, really good up to a point. And what it was great at was kind of digging into what he and his wife went through, and some of it brought upon themselves, but then I suppose we all bring things on ourselves. And I can remember the exact bit where I sort of you might just have lost the tone and the audience of this a little bit, which is where you've got this working class story and then they started intercutting it with designing their own mansion. I was just like, you've suddenly got just a tiny bit less relatable there. Wayne Rooney has made an awful lot of money out of being a brilliant footballer. He has made an awful lot of money out of being a terrible football manager. And whilst I think he probably should have had a right to reply in the documentary, the comments that he's made, I can't suggest it was going to come out much better than it ultimately did. Wayne, God bless you. You got very rich out the Blues. You didn't have to stay there very long. Some of the football was truly dreadful. All power to just cash your cheque. Just cash your cheque. Just take it. It's fine. Let's all move on. You go and do your show for the BBC and make Alan Shearer-esque comments and let's just crack on with that. I do want to talk about the ruthlessness of the current Birmingham City setup. And I had so much sympathy for Ethan Laird. And Ethan Laird didn't start the home game against Ipswich, which I covered in the last episode of this, because in comes Bright Asai Samuel. I think at the start of the transfer window and at the end of last season, few of us would have thought that one of the areas the club was going to significantly invest in was basically that right-back berth that Laird had made his own. And I thought, Bright Asai Samuel came in and is terrific. Great. There's a player I didn't know we needed, but apparently we need. Fine. So Laird could have gone a couple of different ways here. He could have sat on the bench for a long time, skulked. He could have, all sorts of things. But you could almost see him almost fading out under the old ways of Birmingham City. This isn't the old ways. He plays against Sheffield United in the Carabao Cup, the Caravan Cup, as one of my kids calls it. And I thought he got off to a slightly bumpy start at the very start of the game, then had a flat-out man-of-the-match performance. I couldn't have... Oh, God. Whacking the mic. This is proper homebrew stuff. A really good man-of-the-match performance as well. The amount of running that he does without running out of steam. I love Keshi Anderson. Keshi Anderson is our most underappreciated player. There's a strong suggestion. Taylor Gardner-Hickman, our most underappreciated squad player. Maybe one for another chat. But Keshi Anderson, I think, has 80 minutes in his engine. Ethan Laird, I think, has about 800 years in it. He just doesn't stop. We saw that against Blackburn. as well, where he comes on at half time and is responsible for like the turning point moment of the game. I'm sure I'm going to come to that a little bit later. The ruthlessness again comes to the fore as Christian Bielik departs Birmingham. Now, Christian Bielik, like 18 months ago, was the MVP, the player you couldn't consider not putting on the team sheet. I remember when he came back, I was just like, oh, that's an upgrade. That's great. And so Bielik has gone to the Baggies for a price of what? I think it's about £1 million and then £2 million if Albion get promoted. So he's gone for £1 million is basically what we're saying. And it's weird seeing him leave and basically be our third, fourth choice centre-back at the point he goes, appreciating he played in midfield as well, but it was Tony Mowbray, really, wasn't it, who brought him into that centre-back position, and he really excelled there. And, you know, you go back to the game, it's Wrexham last year, and there was our club captain. I mean, getting sent off, fighting in there, right there. You remember the photo of Bielik in the mid-tackle, two of his teeth flying out? That's the kind of like commitment to the cause that he had. And when Blues got relegated, and this came through in the documentary, I think it was Tom Wagner, Tom Bray, I mean, they've all said, just like, there were a bunch of players cut loose who they basically didn't think had, I don't know, the ethic, I don't know, just the attitude of, right, we've got to fight back, the kind of the grim determination to get him. Bielik, there was no consideration, I would imagine, at that point, getting rid of him. And yet here we are in August 2025, like a year after the start of that League One season, and Bielik's gone. If you'd have told me that a year or two ago, that would have been like, really? But then this is the era of Christoph Clara, new club captain, nobody arguing with that. Phil Nyman, where the hell did we get him from? Amazing. And then we got Cashin as well. And we've just got three great centre halves. And there's still the rumour that Ben Davies may come back. And at that point, you look at that list and almost unfathomable that Christian Bielik would be our fifth choice centre back. But he would have been our fifth choice centre-back. That is the progress in the last 12 months. And again, it's the ruthlessness of the transfer dealings. It's just like the club have been really open about, we want two players for each position. But even if you're playing really well and they find someone they think would improve it another 20%, you're gone. Pack your bags. I mean, in terms of, a lot was made about like the commitment to excellence and stuff like that. But it's moments like that where you just think, oh, okay, you're putting your money where your mouth is. Get it. And fair enough. I wish Christian Bielik the very, very best. He's been a terrific servant for Blues. And the message that he sent when he left, now he just summed it up. It's just like Albion are, a lot of Albion friends who've been asking what they get. They're getting a leader, which I think Albion probably need. I hope it doesn't come and bite us on the backside. But either way, I mean, he's put in his shift for us. And I don't think too many people could argue with that at all. So, those are some of the off-the-pitch things. On the pitch, I mean, it's almost pinch yourself again, isn't it? It's so our first three fixtures of the season have seen us home to Ipswich, covered last time, brutally unlucky at the end of that game. Again, I'm not going to dig it all up. Then home to Sheffield United in the Caravan Cup. So Ipswich still getting parachute payments. Sheffield United still getting parachute payments from a Premier League relegation. And then away at Blackburn Rovers yesterday at the point this is recording. And the one of those that struck me as the actual real test of where we are was away at Blackburn Rovers, because I think Blackburn fans would say this, I'd say this. It was less of an event. So home to Ipswich, Friday night under the lights, championship opener, big event, almost like cup finally. No one quite knows the level of each team in the championship at that point. Got a better idea now, but there was a kind of step into the unknown. Home to Sheffield United, you kind of never know in the League Cup who's going to play what players. Huge credit to Chris Davies for putting a team out to win that game. Come to that in a second. Away at Blackburn, well, that's a rugged championship team against, I mean, whoever we are at this point, according to loads of fan forums, a really dirty, nasty team. Might come to that in a minute as well. And so Blackburn was sort of the audit in my head of, you know, can we actually compete in a gritty, grotty Championship game. Last time it's a long time since I considered us a mid-table championship squad going into a season, really. One or two times perhaps I did, and then like the football started, it's just like, nah. But this, I think Gary Monk era was like kind of the bit where you thought, oh, we could actually compete with anyone and nick a result from anyone. Don't think we're going to go great guns, but at least we're fighting. Here it's just different, and we're dealing with raised expectations. We're dealing with the aftermath of the 111 points. What would Blackburn serve up? But let's do Sheffield United first, because a couple of interesting things about that. First of all, we put out a team. And appreciating that Chris Davis made some changes, we still put out a team to win that game, I thought. Conversely, opposition dug out and they changed 10 players. And Sheffield United, I think, were taking the tie less seriously. Still don't think they quite expected what they got. The other thing that's not been talked about as well is there were 16,000 there for the game. So far from capacity, but round one of the League Cup is rarely anyone's idea of a good night out. Appreciating, I mean, I love summer night games at St Andrews, competitive ones. And so there was that side of it, but still 16,000 for round one. Usually people don't wake up or get interested in the League Cup unless it's like a derby or something like that for a couple of rounds in. Here we were. We put out a crowd, appreciating like all the ground wasn't open. It was still a good, noisy, boisterous crowd for that stage of the competition. And boy, was that crowd rewarded. So, a couple of talking points from that game. Kyogo is one of them. Now, he's a fascinating striker already. Should have had a goal against Ipswich, was chalked out. Damari Gray's running in the Sheffield United game, and I watched a lot of the off-the-ball running again, because I'm that interested. And Damari Gray does a hell of a shift off the ball. It was most notable in that game when he did the 60-yard run back to make basically a goal-saving tackle. Likely a goal-saving. Mind you, the way some of the shots were going in that game, not sure. But still, he saw the problem, absolutely pegged it back. You're just like, that's the level of commitment we need. And that's not always the commitment that we've had the last few years. But also, it was his alertness and his reading the game. And Sheffield United, I mean, they gifted us the first goal, but Gray, if you go back and watch it again, was just watching for it. Nipped in, beautiful interception, celebrating before the goal went in. If you watch the replay, his arms are in the air already. He knows what's happening. Kyogo, off the mark, great. Now, realistically, we should be like discussing the Sheffield United game and talking about the amazing 4 goals that Furuhashi got. So, on the plus side of it, his positioning was great. His football intelligence is great. He was in the right place at the right time and time again. The decisions that he was making once he had the ball, perhaps lesser. I'll not begrudge a striker taking a snapshot and it going wide or something like that, or having a go and it just... I don't like shot-shy strikers, and he's not a shot-shy striker, and I hope what happened on Wednesday night doesn't turn him into one. He barely had any action really up front in the Blackburn game. I do wonder, they sort of... it struck me Blackburn watched the Ipswich match and set up accordingly against that. It's Valerie Ismail, isn't it? But I mean, one of the big talking points after Sheffield United was how many times Kyogo had a chance to score and didn't. And I think the official stat says 4 shots. He had 4 shots in the air. But there were also little bits as well. There was one where he was going through. There's Keshi Anderson over there. I watched Keshi Anderson smack goals in for fun last season. Ball across, fine. We would have had a less stressful end to that game. However, then up steps Gustavo Hamer. To score against Blues at the moment, it strikes me, on the evidence of the first 3 games, you need one of 2 things. You need really dodgy refereeing, or you need a worldie. Gustavo Hamer's goal is, I mean, it's as good a hit as I've seen at Blues. I mean, I'm not wishing to like be overly dramatic about it, but I mean, Tomoki Iwata's against Newcastle last season was as good as I've seen in the flesh at Blues, for Blues. And then along comes Hamer, hits it from the halfway line, and unusually, you can't really blame the keeper. So we've got Beadling goal making his debut, And I mean, he's 8'9". And he wasn't out of his box. And if you watch it again, the way Hamer hits it, the ball is swirling in the air so much. And it sort of ends up in the corner. And you're just like, it's a free. I'll never see it again in my lifetime at that ground. And Sheffield United, how familiar is this season? With their first shot on target, have equalised. And I mean, it made the back end of that game as squeaky as anything. But then up steps Stansfield, and Stansfield is going to come up again shortly when we talk about Blackburn. But there's something a little bit different about him this season, I think, which is a kind of, I'm going to grab this game by the collar. I'm going to just like do something about it when the fit hits the shan. And in this case, appreciating he got a deflection, ball goes into him, lovely little passing move, bang, 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 a real zip to it, which wasn't there at Blackburn for large parts. Gets his chance, beautiful piece of footwork, in the goal, 2-1, ground erupts. League One of the League Cup, appreciating it's like a winner, 2-3 minutes from the end, who doesn't love those? Ground erupts, home to Port Vale in the next round. And, you know, what I learnt from the Virtue Bristol Street Cup last season, I mean, that changed. I don't think I've ever seen Blues play in a cup that's changed its name halfway through, that notwithstanding, it's the teams we sort of expect to put away that give us the fright. Bradford in that semi-final, a league below, were minutes away from penalties until Lyndon Dykes got his head to something. Might come back to him shortly as well. So Port Vale is the home game that I think might be a little bit like last season. We're expected to win it. I don't think many went into the Sheffield United game thinking we're going to absolutely smash them off the park or something like that. But I thought we'd be competitive. I hoped we'd win it, home advantage and everything. What I didn't expect was how we dominated it. Absolutely dominated it, and it took a worldie to get them back in. And even once they got the goal, I didn't think United had a second goal in them unless they were shooting from the corner flag or like the moon or something like that. Just didn't see it. I don't know whether it was the wrong players on the pitch or something like that. Appreciating they put up a bit more of a fight. If there was one team that was going to win it, I thought it was going to be us. I should know the referee issue again. Now, I thought the referee on Wednesday on surface value was a big improvement on Mr. Whistle, who refereed us the Friday before. But still, turns out the first match we had what looked like a perfectly good goal chalked out and a dodgy penalty decision. This match, it was what looked like a perfectly good goal ruled out. That he blew after a corner had been taken and then ordered a retake just after Ethan Laird had popped up and put the ball in the net. And then the worldie, and I don't want to deny Gustavo Hamer this because if I'd scored that, you'd be hearing about it, it hit the referee. So by letter of the law, that's a drop ball. Well, I do grassroots pan-disability football. It's just like, we know the rules there. It's just like, it's a drop ball with us as well. We're like 10-year-old. It's a drop ball. So it's disappointing, but in that particular instance, it didn't affect the result of the match, but nearly did. So we come to Blackburn yesterday, and going into the game, the unchanged team, quite harsh on Tommy Doyle, quite harsh on Ethan Laird as well, but still an unchanged team. Couple of observations just in terms of the way we're playing and how it's changed a little bit. One of the frustrations last season that I and many people in Block 37 had was it took us a long time to put a cross in. It looks like a lot of work has been done on that, not least Alex Cochrane. And the fact that Alex Cochrane's gone off injured and he's the one player in the squad that we don't have immediate cover for, with Lee Buchanan's injury still looking quite long term, is a worry. But whenever, I don't know if you noticed it against Ipswich as well, whenever Cochrane gets the ball down, gets the chance to cross, the cross is bang in. There's no faffing, it's banging, and it causes chaos. He's a brilliant crosser of the ball. So he was getting crosses in early, and in the Blackburn game, I mean, he had the chance in the first 5 minutes as well. He's a really adventurous defender. Had the shot, skimmed off the surface a little bit, keeper spilled it out. You wouldn't expect it to go in, but there was a rebound there, and the positive intent from our defence is just wonderful seeing that. After that, the first half was just like, I'm watching mid-table championship stuff, I thought here. And on the one hand, again, it's a long time since I felt Birmingham were a competitive mid-table championship team. But here we were against a Blackburn team that had been set up having researched us. So we've been waiting for this moment a little bit off the back of the League One promotion. If we go back to the Ipswich game being the event, and so you kind of have to I said in the last video, it's just like, you don't really learn too much off the first game of the season, although Wolves just did against Manchester City, but that's a whole different conversation. But you don't learn, it doesn't have to be defining. In the case of the Blackburn game, this was going to be more interesting because League One, as we've discussed before, teams set up 10 behind the ball, then they try and find a bus, then they try and put some steel barriers, then they try and take the goalpost down. Then, the level of sitting back against us was a lot. Blackburn, having lost their first 2 games of the season, didn't have that intent and came to compete and came to nullify us again. And I thought it was quite interesting how they set up against Kyogo. Kyogo didn't get the space. He kept making the runs, if you kept watching, but he wasn't getting the space. He barely got the ball. I think there was 1 or 2 moments in the second half where he looked like it was a bit more involved, but they played him out of the game. And again, they'd done their homework. I'd imagine Ishmael had 54 ring binders with how to play against the Birmingham City press and the Birmingham City attack. And, it worked. And it was like a really dull game of chess, the first half. It's just like people moving pawns around the board, weren't really doing anything dramatic. Apart from that Cochrane shot, I mean, Allsop didn't even do the sporting thing of kicking the ball and giving them a shot this time. Decent performance again off Allsop, might come to him as well. And so you get to half-time at 0-0, I'm just thinking, well, this is a bit more what it's going to be like, isn't it? And appreciating we shaded possession. It wasn't dominating. Blackburn had their moments. Blackburn have some terrific players in their team. Appreciating it's a club that's got problems as well. There's a weird rivalry between Blackburn and Blues I don't quite get as well, but okay. And so you come into the second half and it goes back to that thing, like, you're going to have to come up with a worldie to score past us at the minute, or you're going to have to give us 8, 9, 10, 15 attempts to clear the ball out of our own box, and then we'll knock the ball to Todd Cantwell, who I think Blackburn fans are a bit up and down on. But so the 50 minutes in, so many attempts failed to get the ball out of the box. In the end, Christoph Clara gets a head on it, goes to the corner of the box. The shot from Cantwell was really sweet. And it looked at first glance that it had gone right in the corner of Allsop's goal. Then when I looked at it again, it sort of hasn't. It kind of curls towards the middle of it. And you just think, should Allsop have got that? I don't know. And then you watch a replay. It comes through a bunch of players. And I think the thing with Cantwell as well is how hard he hit it. The pace on the ball. I mean, we're not talking Iwata, but it was hard enough that Allsop, with like the obstructed visibility and the time he had to respond, I mean, the odds were just absolutely stacked against him. I saw 1 or 2 bits and bobs of criticism of Allsop, and my reading on him was all, I mean, he's a fabulous defender. He's an amazing defensive midfielder, and he's a pretty good keeper. His shot stopping wasn't really fully tested last season. It was really tested at the end of this match. In fact, I would suggest he made a game-saving save at the back end of the match into injury time, which set up us being able to go and get the winner. And so Allsop I've got a lot of time for, and I think he gives us a lot of options as a team, and he's one of the best passers of the ball. I just like go back to like Dion Sanderson in the Reading game last season, and I mean Allsop must have just been watching that thinking, oh, Dion, just like take it down a little bit, take it down. So 50 minutes in, Blackburn go in front, and I'm just like, okay, this is interesting. What are we going to do now? And the answer at first was not really a lot. I thought Blackburn, again, they threatened. I think there's the one header that goes more comfortably past the post than I think I appreciated at the time. But they threatened, they pushed, they prodded for a second, and we looked a bit stuck. And so let's go back to Ipswich and Sheffield United, are two teams who were, in the last year or two, last couple of years, both been in the Premier League. We lifted our game to play them. Blackburn, we saved our worst of the three performances for. And this one was a battle. So, which football cliche should we go for? There's only one that will do the job. The teams that go up know how to grind out results. Let's go with that. And they find a way to win. And that, in the end, would sort of be the message of our trip to Ewood Park. 7,000 Blues fans. Why did Blackburn give us 7,000 tickets? God bless them for doing it. But it didn't half make a noise. And so a couple of things changed the game for us. The obvious one was Ethan Laird. But I want to single out Jay Stansfield here, because Stansfield this season has stepped up. And it's said that you look for your big players at the big moments. But Stansfield, he's a young man, and so he doesn't carry a lot of experience, but he carries an awful lot of threat. This season, I get the sense that he's taken on more of the responsibility side of being a team player as well. And there was a point, against Blackburn, where for 5-10 minutes, he was just driving at them, harrying them. It's like he was really annoyed that they scored and just like, no, I'm going to do something about this. And he fought and fought and fought and fought. And, I thought it was one of his less showy, but one of his most impactful performances in a Birmingham City shirt. And Stansfield, as a 15 million striker in League One, is unique. A 15 million player in the Championship isn't. And so it's less a case of he's leagues above everyone else in there. He's competing with players of, I don't know, depends who we're playing at the time, but the weight between them is a lot lighter. And I just thought he just drove us forward. And there was a point where it just looked like we just clicked and just like, no, we're not leaving here with nothing. We're gonna, by hook or by crook, find a way to get a point. So then you come to the subs bench. And I thought at first the subs were coming in a little bit later. And I also thought, at home to Ipswich, I thought when Lyndon Dykes came on in that game, it's just like, if I was an opposition defender and saw him coming off the bench, would I be scared? Would I think we can't handle him? And I thought, no, I think the cliche of Lyndon Dykes is he's a good League One centre-forward. Now, he's in his 30s. He's just come back off a very, very unpleasant injury. And he's not the most prolific striker, although in a Birmingham shirt, it turns out he's not getting lots of goals, but he is getting goals that matter. Either like if Iwata hadn't hit the goal against Newcastle in the FA Cup, would Lyndon Dykes have got goal of the FA Cup last season? Quite feasibly. The equaliser against Wrexham, scrambled, fought for, battled for. The one that got us into the Virtue Cup final, and then then he comes off the bench again here. I was just like, days of old. It's like, get Duke on. Duke, even in the last season or two, get Duke on, add something physical. And it was kind of that playing of the card. And I looked at Dykes coming on, I was just like, I quite like Lyndon Dykes, but it's just like, I didn't think game changer there. I thought it was roll of the dice more than game changer. And maybe it was, I don't know. But my words have been eaten. If Lyndon Dykes happens to be watching, it's just like, you win, I lose. I'm really, really happy about that. Also, the work rate kept going. This is the fittest Birmingham City team in terms of physical fitness. I'm not going on Tinder. This is the fittest Birmingham City team in my lifetime. They could do 100 minutes, most of those players, I think. And as much as they might be on fumes by the time they go, they just keep going and going and going and going. So it's not just that they don't have the attitude of, we're beaten. Because like previously in Championship games a couple of years ago, we went one down, it's just like, and we know what's coming. So that mentality's gone, but also they've got enough fuel in the tank to actually try and do something about it, to try and affect the game. So when you've got Kyogo being quiet, Stansfield fighting and fighting and fighting. Peck, I mean, I just thought was brilliant. Brilliant. The measured passing, just the calmness, I just thought was brilliant. I mean, how we ended up with him 2 years ago at a point where we weren't like the project that it is known as now. No idea. Glad we didn't. But it was Ethan Laird in the end, and Ethan Laird come on at half time for Alex Cochrane, hopefully not too badly injured. And we saw particularly in the second half of last season that when Laird gets to the byline, Cochrane will put a cross in. Laird wants to cut in and then run across the box and try and win the penalty, which he's done lots of times. As an opposition fan, this would get right on my tits. And I've been on the Blackburn boards. I understand why Blackburn fans are unhappy. Cuts in, goes across, and the defender does enough contact and you can see it in the defender's face. He does not protest the decision. People around do, but the camera goes in, if you look at the replay, on the defender. He's not arguing. He knows what he's done. It's a soft penalty, but it is actually a penalty. It is a foul in the penalty area. And I mean, I don't think I'd be particularly happy to concede it, but it's a penalty. It just... Stansfield steps up, smacks it in. You're just thinking, okay, this is probably... We've got a shot here. 11 minutes of added on time. We've got a shot. And then it felt like the Alamo in the other direction. Blackburn just swarming at us. Went for us. I really admired that about them. I thought it would have been easy for Blackburn, having had a fairly crappy start to the season, to sit back, try and protect a point, get the first point on the board and kept going. But credit to Ishmael, his football is not the most enjoyable to watch. He pushed, he went for it, he gambled, the long throws were coming in. I mean, we've suddenly got long throws as well. And we've got actual long throws with pace on. If you go back to the Mark Roberts era, God bless that man. And don't forget, we saw a goal from a Mark Roberts throw-in at St Andrews last season. He would throw them and he could get them about 74 miles, but at walking pace. If that, I mean, they sit down a couple of times on the way over just to get a bit of fresh air, a bit of oxygen. When Blackburn were throwing them in, when Cochrane throws them in, there's pace to it as well. And that's the big difference, I think. It's now not just like this ball coming in from all the way over there. It's got something on it. I'm not just like watching someone bowl underarm in a test match at the cricket. And so the Blackburn long throws were causing all sorts of problems. I mean... Fair dues to our defence for getting the vast bulk of them out. But I wouldn't have been surprised the way Blackburn came at us if they'd have nicked it. And Allsop save, they could have nicked it. And I'm not saying should have, but they could have nicked it. But remember Wrexham away last season, where Wrexham really came at us, and the 1-1 draw, but it was an actual test of what our defence can sustain when people are coming for us. I thought that was the parallel, and that's going to happen a lot this season, far more than last season. Turns out our defence can sustain a lot, but they hit the 98th minute and you get the corner. And again, I'm not a Blackburn fan. If I was a Blackburn fan, the state of that corner, how you get a corner in the 98th minute, put everyone up, pretty much everyone up. I mean, that's an interesting tactical decision as well. They wanted to win this. I respect that. But you don't clear the first man. You don't even come close to clearing the first man. Ball comes across to Iwata. Count the seconds between Iwata's ball over to Damari Gray, who worked his backside off again, to it ending up in the net. And so Iwata's ball sweeps up to Gray, and I'm watching it, I just think, you've overplayed this, you've gone too far. And it's almost like the pace of the breakaway slowed because Gray sort of slowed, got into a little bit of traffic. And I was just like, I said to the person next to me, I was just like, he's muffed that. It's gone wrong. Sorry, Damari. God love you. Goes in, cuts the ball. Dykes, physical presence, does the centre forward thing. Get between. Alfie May was great at this. Get between the sticks. Get Summit on it. Boom. You win a game by any means necessary. And if you can win one where you were losing it at 89 minutes, I mean, that's a promising sign for your season. I don't think many Blues fans, I think most Blues fans, if they'd been offered 1-1 at 85 minutes, would have shook hands on it and walked away. This lot keep going. This, again, is different. And this was a really different kind of test against a Blackburn team that I thought was tough. I thought it was a credit to their club. Not many shots in it, but a lot of industry. And that's what I mean by mid-championship. For a lot of it, it was mid-championship team against mid-championship team. What makes the difference between a mid-championship team and a top 6, 7 championship team? Not making a prediction. You find a way to win the game. And I'm still a little... My voice has just come back, but we found a way to win a game that was lost. Last time we were in the Championship, that wasn't a thing. And now it's a thing. And as much as I'm talking about Cochrane gets crosses in quicker and, generally there's zip. There wasn't much zip to the match yesterday for large parts. I thought it was a little bit more laboured. But the attitude's changed. The attitude's right. And, it was as in terms of pleasurable wins and wins that kind of set a marker for your season, it reminded me of the home game at Wigan last season, where Scott Wright got the goal, 91st minute, place absolutely erupted. Now, a reaction, all due respect to Wigan, beating Wigan in League One at home with a last-minute winner shouldn't have sent the roof off St Andrews, but it did. And it was a marker, and it was credit to Wigan who really pushed us that match. Here, same thing. It's just like, oh, okay, is there something a bit more going on? Is there? Okay, do you dare to dream as a Blues fan? I'm still expecting it all to go tits up. But do you dare to dream? And so we come to the end of it. And Lyndon Dykes, wonderful. Wonderful. My 12-year-old suggests you should probably get a tattoo to celebrate that last-minute winner. That was his wise suggestion for you. And then the club actually, later in the evening, posted a video from behind the goal. And the look on the players' faces, they're screaming with delight. It's just like, oh, God. I always think what you want as a football fan is for the players on the pitch to want it as much as you in the stands. And it's just like, yeah, this is together. This is working. Might not be working in 3 months. At the moment, it's working. The response to I've been on a couple of message boards and stuff just to see what the kind of response is. And there is a reputation that I've seen. I saw it from Ipswich fans as well, that we're now a dirty team. And I mean, my first Blues match, Mark Dennis gets sent off. I watched the Pat Vandenhouwe, Julian Dix era. It's just like, I've been the bits where Blues are competitive. Let's go with that. I'm not utterly convinced that this Birmingham team is a dirty team, but I know it's just like, sometimes that's just the label that sticks. I think we're a hugely competitive team. I think we're occasionally aggressive team, and also we're savvy enough to know that if there's a winger zipping by and we get a booking for taking him out, take him out. You protect your goal at all costs, and I'm quite happy with that. I think the games that we've been involved in have been quite niggly, and I wonder if that's part of it. I do think the ref was better yesterday, actually. The best of the 3 refs we've had so far, but then Mr. Whistle in the first game, he's going to take some beating, isn't he, for the prize, for the Mouldy Whistle prize of this season. I don't necessarily buy it, but so be it. If that's what people think, and if that's what it takes. I mean, I think we look comfortable on the ball. We look, particularly in defence, we look happy with the ball. There were bits yesterday where I just thought we weren't looking after it enough, but then Davies makes his substitutions, and then the other substitution was when we get it to 1-1, brings the defender back on and just goes a little bit prudent. I'm just like, oh, okay, we're constantly evolving this, and it's a more interesting game of chess. Then you're actually playing with like knights and bishops and rooks and stuff like that. It was a really satisfying day. And we come now to home to Oxford next week. And I would imagine a couple of things by then. Number one, I wouldn't bet Lyndon Dykes is still a Blues player. I might be wrong, but I wonder if that was like a kind of swan song. A bloody good one as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another player or two in. I think most of us are now expecting a left back. But also the return of Gary Rowett.
should be interesting, because Oxford is, if you look at form, if you look at the table, if you look at everything, a game we should win at home. And this is interesting because we are going into that home match with the absolute expectation from some Blues fans that we are going to really comfortably win that. Those are the games that scare me the most, because we raise our game for the Ipswiches, we raise our game for Newcastles and stuff like that. What do you do at home to Oxford? I guess we'll find out in the next week.